My name is Alan, and we are back with more 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. So yeah, this was meant to be Friday's video. We are looking at the state of Montana. Big Sky Country. If I can find my cursor. But yeah, Big Sky Country, Treasure State. So you can get a look. Right here it is on the border with Canada. Indiana to the west, southwest, Wyoming. I think that's Wyoming. That should be Colorado. Yeah, Wyoming to the south and to the east, North Dakota, South Dakota. So, Montana. Capital city, Helena, and biggest city, Billings. So yeah. Now, let's see if we can dig in a little bit more. It is landlocked, as we talked about, bordered by Idaho, North, South Dakotas, and Wyoming. Canadian provinces of Alberta and British Columbia and Saskatchewan to the north. The fourth largest state by land area. So it's huge in size, but it is the 8th least populous state, making it the 3rd least densely populated state. The western half of the state contains mountain ranges, while the eastern half is characterized, thank you, tongue for speaking, by western prairie terrain and badlands and smaller mountain ranges. So, yeah, the western side here, you're looking at Rocky Mountains. And then, of course, your eastern half, because you're going to be connecting into the Dakotas and Minnesota, flatlands, prairies. But anyway, now let's take a look at Constitution. Let's see. Current Constitution was adopted in 1972 and is the second ever enacted. So there's 2 total. One for when Montana became an official state, and then apparently they had a second one in 1972, which is the current constitution they follow. As you know, there have been states with multiple constitutions that they went through, so that's not an uncommon thing. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the state government of Montana as it exists now. Of course, you have it divided like the federal government, the three branches: executive, judicial, legislative. Uh, the powers of initiatives and referendums can be voted on for the citizens directly. Which I always love direct government. Um, let's see. Second Constitution stipulated that all Montanans' access to their government is constitutionally protected and includes the right to examine documents and to observe the deliberations of all public bodies or agencies of state government and subdivisions. Yeah, makes perfect sense. That's fine. Like the federal government and the 48 other states, Montana has a bicameral legislature, two chambers of the legislature, your House of Representatives and your Senate. Legislators are elected by popular vote. House members get to be in office for 4 2-year terms, 8 years total. Senate, 2 4-year terms, 8-year totals. It convenes only in odd number years, so it's not even there in even number years. And even in the odd number years, they're only there for 90-day periods. The state law allows for the legislature to be convened in special session by the governor or at the written request of a majority of the members. So the governor can convene them, or a majority of members can get together and say, we need to have a session now. As of 2005, the Montana legislature has been convened in special session 30 times in history. Now, let's open this up and look at the legislature directly here. Your current Senate president is Matt Regier, and your House Speaker, Brandon Lurr. So they don't have the Lieutenant Governor take part in leading the legislature. So you could see some of the differences already, because some states do, some states don't. Your Senate, 50 seats. Right now it's composed of 32 Republicans, 18 Democrats. And the House of Representatives is 100 seats and is currently composed of 58 Republicans to 42 Democrats. So, yeah. More than likely meet in the state capital of Helena. Yeah. legislative districts redrawn every 10 years after each census. But yeah. Now let's go back and look at the next branch here, executive branch. The daily administration of the state laws as defined in Montana Code annotated are carried out by the chief executive, the governor, and their second in command, the lieutenant governor, as well as the secretary of state, the attorney general, the superintendent of public instruction, and the state auditor, and by the staff and employees of 14 executive branch agencies. So altogether we got what? 3, 4, 5, 6 positions that are elected by the people in the executive branch, at least. Your executive branch agencies, or cabinet, if however you wish to look at it, call it, the Department of Administration, Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Corrections, Department of Environmental Quality, Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, Department of Labor and Industry, Department of Livestock, Department of Military Affairs, Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, Department of Public Health and Human Services, Department of Revenue, Department of Transportation. Yeah, and then of course you've got a huge list of councils and commissions and boards. But yeah. That's the cabinet that works directly under the governor and lieutenant governor. Altogether, let's see. Anyway, with that, let's look at these positions. The governors and such. Your governor is Greg Gianforte. He used to be a representative of the state and got in trouble because he threatened to physically harm a reporter. But he seems to be doing okay as governor. Let's see. Justice Secretary. Do we not have... Oh. And then, right here it is. Meet Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juras. The Department of Justice, or Attorney General's office, is represented by Austin Knudsen. I'm not quite sure properly how it's pronounced, but yeah. Your Secretary of State is Christy Jacobson. And let's see, the Commissioners of Securities and Insurance, or Auditor, is James Brown. And finally, we have the head of public instruction, or superintendent of public instruction. I don't want you to do that. I want to take a look at who we're looking at. This handles education and everything. Superintendent of public instruction. Educators, leadership. About us. I want to know who the head of that department is. Thank you. Public instruction. Susan Hedallen looks like the superintendent of public instruction. Maybe Hedallen. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah. The branch agency. Well, let's go up here right quick. See, they have a Elsie Arnson for superintendent. Some of them look right, some of them look different. Anyway. With that, we want to look at the, come on, list of governors for Montana. Greg Gianforte, as we said, is your current governor. But going back to the days of it being a territory in the 1860s, your first territorial governor, Sidney Edgerton. He was appointed by Abraham Lincoln. And then, of course, you have Green Clay Smith, appointed by Andrew Johnson. James Mitchell Ashley, appointed by Ulysses S. Grant. Benjamin F. Potts, also appointed by Grant, and Rutherford B. Hayes. And this is just territorial, so they've got quite a few territorial governors. John Schuyler Crosby by Chester A. Arthur. B. Platt Carpenter by Chester A. Arthur. Samuel Thomas Hauser by Grover Cleveland. Preston Leslie by Grover Cleveland. Benjamin F. White by Benjamin Harrison was your last territorial governor. So, yeah. 25, 26 years. 25, we'll say. Yeah. 1864 to 1889. It was a territory. Finally, in 1889, it became part of the country as a state. And your first elected state governor was Joseph Toole. He was followed by John Rickards, then Robert Burns Smith. Joseph Toole would be back again to be elected as the fourth governor. Edwin L. Norris, Sam V. Stewart, Joseph M. Dixon, John E. Erickson, and Frank Henry Cooney, and Elmer Holt. So that takes us well into the 1930s. But that's a look at some of Montana's history with governors. But with that said, let's go back and look at the court system. Highest court in Montana is, of course, the Supreme Court. It hears cases pertaining to the disputes over the Montana state government and interprets state statutes, the Constitution of the state, and administrative rules. And unlike most court systems and the federal judiciary, Montana does not have an intermediate appellate court. Yeah, I noticed this myself looking up the information. No court of appeals for Montana. So, the state Supreme Court must hear all appeals. The Montana Supreme Court has other duties, including lawyer discipline and revisions of various rules, such as the Montana Rules of Civil and Appellate Procedure, the Rules of Professional Conduct that apply to Montana lawyers, and the Rules of Lawyer Disciplinary Enforcement that govern lawyer discipline cases. On occasions, it must determine whether to impose judicial discipline as recommended by the Judicial Standards Commission. Montana Water Court adjudicates matters of water rights within the states. But yeah, here's what you have. You have the Supreme Court at the top, then the district courts, the Workers' Compensation Court, the Water Court, and then courts of limited jurisdiction, which are justice, municipal, city. So yeah, with that, let's dig in to the Montana Supreme Court. Each judge or justice is elected for 8-year periods. There are 7 positions. So 6 associates and a chief justice, I would assume. Midterm vacancies would be appointed by the governor. So deaths or people retiring midterm or whatever. The Montana Supreme Court was established under the first Constitution of Montana in Article 8. So, yeah. Okay, Chief Justice, 6 Associate Justices, provides The Constitution only provides for 4 associates, but the Montana legislature did increase the number of associate justices to 6. So, yeah. Must be a resident of Montana for at least 2 years immediately prior to taking office, and must be admitted to practice law in Montana for at least 5 years to the date of election. So yeah, that's standards that are required. I don't see an age limit or anything, but yeah. But your Chief Justice currently is Corey Swanson, with Associate Justices James A. Rice, Beth Baker, Lori McKinnon, James Jeremiah Shea, Ingrid Gustafson, and Catherine M. Bedegare. So that is a look at the Supreme Court for Montana. That gets us down the line to the district courts. And there you see the map of the district courts, 22 in all. But yeah. They appeal directly to court cases they deal in get appealed directly to the Montana Supreme Court, while they can actually get appeals themselves serving as an appellate court from Justice of the Peace Court, city courts, municipal courts. So while there isn't technically a court of appeals, the district courts can serve that purpose. Judges are on the bench for terms of 6 years. State trial courts, general jurisdiction. They have original jurisdiction over most civil cases in law and in equity, civil actions involving monetary claims against one state, criminal felony cases, naturalization proceedings, probate cases, and most writs. They also have certain special actions and proceedings and oversee a narrowly defined class of ballot issues. They also have appellate jurisdiction regarding cases that arise in justice courts, city courts, municipal courts, the courts with limited jurisdiction, the lower end courts, as well as judicial review decisions by state administrative law tribunals that fall under Minnesota Administrative Procedures Act. They are meant to be nonpartisan, as the Supreme Court judges are also supposed to be. So, for Montana, not that our federal Supreme Court is nonpartisan. They show partisanship directly through how they fucking act. Anyway. District courts have the power to enforce decisions of the Montana Water Court arising within their judicial district. Let's see. As per the Constitution of Montana, they are selected via Article 7, Section 8. Must be at least 25, licensed to practice law in the state, and lived in Montana for at least a year. So yeah, vacancies. A judge must be required to forfeit their judgeship if they file for any elective public office other than a judicial position, or are absent from the state for more than 60 consecutive days. So prolonged absences are looking at becoming a part of legislature or the governor. So, yeah. It's only you continue to hold on and looking at another position if it's a judicial position. Uh, Let's see. Article 5, Section 13 of the Constitution of Montana gives the legislature the power to impeach judges. Impeachment may only be brought by a 2/3 vote in the House of Representatives, and conviction and removal from office only by a 2/3 vote of the Senate. Does not bar them, however, from civil or criminal prosecution. So you may get impeached and still have to go through civil or criminal prosecution depending on what you did. Let's see. As of 2016, the numbers of judges: 6 judges in the 13th district, 4 in the 1st, 4th, and 11th districts, 3 in the 18th district, 2 in the 2nd, 7th, 16th, 20th, and 21st districts, and then 1 in each other districts not listed. So yeah. Okay. They have what's called drug courts, although they're not actual courts. They're a separate docket used by the courts and some inferior courts. Allows them to look at misdemeanor or felony crimes of child abuse, child neglect, and juvenile cases involving individuals addicted to drugs or alcohol. It provides treatment as well as sanctions with the goal of treating addiction, reducing recidivism, and improving rehabilitation. District Council Court. or District Court Counsel, I should say. Case laws regarding organization. But yeah, look at the district court, or district courts, we should say, of Montana. Next, we have the water court, which, as you can imagine, I'm sure the state is probably not the wettest. The eastern half is your prairies and dry badlands, and then the western half's the Rocky Mountains and such. This court, instead of meeting in Helena, meets in Bozeman, Montana. And adjudicates water rights. Filing, verification, recording, and enforcement of water rights in Montana Territory and later the state were considered highly inadequate until 1972, when a new state constitution required a more robust, highly centralized water rights legal system. Implementation of this system led to the establishment of the Water Court in 1979, and after 6 years of mixed success with the administrative solution. The Water Court consists of a chief water judge, an associate water judge, and 4 district water judges. But most work is handled by special masters, sometimes called water masters. The process of identifying, verifying, and adjudicating water rights is a complex one, and budgetary and personnel issues have slowed the work at times. Appeals from the Water Court are made directly to the Montana Supreme Court. The district courts, I'm sure, like we mentioned before, have narrow abilities to confirm what the Water Court says. But yeah, apparently it can also just go straight to the Montana Supreme Court. The state finished verifying all water claims in 2015, and the Water Court will finish issuing final decrees in all hydrological basins by 2020. Its work is expected to end in 2028, although there is ongoing debate about termination in the state legislature. The state has not engaged in a process which includes all water claimants, leading to the state to negotiate compacts with tribal governments and federal agencies. So yeah, water rights. Bighorn River. Creation of the Water Court. Okay, there was only a single water court, but it had 4 jurisdictions based on the 4 largest watersheds in state boundaries. Yellowstone River Basin Division, which was Yellowstone River, Little Missouri River, as well as all water in Carter County. The Lower Missouri River Basin Division, which was drained by the Missouri River below the mouth of the Marias River, as well as all water in Glacier and Sheridan counties. Division 3 was the Upper Missouri River Basin Division that covers areas drained by the Missouri River to the mouth of the Marias River. And Division 4 was Clark Fork River Basin Division, which covers areas drained by the Clark Fork River, the Kootenai River, as well as all water in Lincoln County. But anyway, now the Water Court of Montana. And finally, that leaves us with a look at the Montana Inferior Courts. Limited jurisdiction. City courts, justice courts, municipal courts. Let's see. Both constitutions in Montana history authorize the creation of inferior courts. Justice courts, also known as justice of the peace courts, can deal with civil suits involving less than $5,000. Misdemeanor charges of driving under the influence, traffic violations, fish and game violations, protective orders, and preliminary hearings. They also act as a small claims court, hearing small claims involving less than $3,000. They generally do not handle cases that involve minors, except in cases involving possession of alcohol or tobacco, gambling, fish, and game violations, and traffic offenses. They cover the county in which they are located. When there is no city or municipal court in a county, the justice hears cases involving city and county ordinances. So yeah. 62 total justice courts in Montana. The city courts have the same jurisdiction as the justice courts, but their jurisdiction extends only to the enforcement of city ordinances and cover the city in which they are located. There is no qualification for office, and each city determines the city court judge will be appointed or elected. 81 total city courts in Montana. And then your municipal courts. Same jurisdiction as justice courts, but with some differences. Their jurisdiction does not extend to the enforcement of city ordinances, and they can hear civil suits involving up to $7,000. And unlike justice or city courts, municipal courts may issue arrest warrants for felony crimes. The process covers the city in which they are located, and they must be lawyers or elected to office. There are 5 municipal courts in Montana. So yeah, as we mentioned before, the Montana District Courts can be the appellate court for inferior courts. So their cases usually would appeal directly to the district courts. And then your next step would be the Supreme Court of Montana. But yeah, that's a look at the inferior courts. And that's a look at Montana in general. We'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.